All right. Why, thank you. Why do I read that when I talk about theme? Because until those last 6 lines, the poem is about a woman willing to do anything to get to her lover. And with those 6 lines, the poem becomes about the difference between faith and religion, between being and doing. Because what he's saying is, it doesn't matter. All these things you've done, they don't matter, because it isn't in the doing. It's in who you are inside, and it was never real. And that to him was the theme. That was the theme. He was writing about religion in this guise of love and false love. But he knew what he was doing, because Auden always knew what he was doing. You need to have that firm a grip on your theme, and then you can rise to these heights, because you're all infinitely talented. Okay. Mood. Mood. Uh-oh. Joanna's allergic to me. All right, I need some water. Mood. Mood is very hard to pin down. But it's the place where your word choice matters most. Word choice always matters. Word choice is always essential. One of the best students I ever had was a Turkish woman, Beryl. Beryl used to, she spoke very good English. She had studied in the US. She got her college degree at Brandeis. But it wasn't her native language. And so she looked for words in the mental Rolodex, the mental dictionary, all the time, for words that we would take for granted, we wouldn't bother looking for. I turned and walked away. For her, walked had the same value, the same importance as strolled, sauntered, sashayed, strode, slipped. She looked at them all and picked the one she really, really wanted. And her writing was absolutely vivid, brilliant. Grammar, not so much. We had to work on that. But word choice is always essential. It's never more essential than when you're establishing mood. Because mood and momentum are the two of these things, these 6 elements, that are established in the process of doing other things. Mood largely with word choice, momentum largely with word arrangement, and I'll get to that in a minute. But mood, sashayed, sauntered, slipped, really matters. It really matters. It's hard to get at. But when I say that of the genres, horror is almost entirely mood, you know what I mean, right? You know, you read those books, it really doesn't matter what's happening, it matters how scary it is. And you make it scary by what you show and what you don't show. It's the same, you need to establish your mood as a crime novelist. This is hard to talk about even. But when you think of your favorite novels, when you think of Michael Connelly's Hieronymus Bosch series, when you think of Janet Ivanovich, you think of anybody with a body of work, there's a mood that comes to mind with each body of work. When you think of Lisa Scottolini, I know you think of her a lot, Sydney. Something comes to mind. That's the mood, that sense that you have of what it's about. And it's done with word choice. It's done with what you choose to talk with, not about, but with. And we can, you can try to ask me more questions about that later and see if I can make sense. Momentum is the last thing. And momentum is, as I said, in crime novels, absolutely essential, because crime novels are question-driven. The question is either who did it, that is, you find a body on the first page and then, what's going on here. Even if you find out immediately on the second page who killed that body, there's something else going on. There's bound to be, or it's a 2-page book. So the question is, what's going on here? Or, if it's a thriller, it's backloaded, and the question, and this is what is happening in On the Line, in my new book, you know right away what's going on. The question is, can the good guy stop the bad guy from doing whatever really bad thing the bad guy has planned before the book ends? So the greatest compliment a crime writer can get is when somebody calls up and says, I hate you, I was up till 4 in the morning. Somebody once called me and said, did you know I was in Brooklyn yesterday? And I said, well, no, I didn't, and I'm sorry to hear that since it doesn't seem like it made you happy to be in Brooklyn yesterday, but why are you yelling at me? And she said, because I wasn't going to Brooklyn. I was going to Lower Manhattan, and I was reading your damn book, and I forgot to get off the subway. I loved it. I loved it. That's because, for some reason, in that book, she found pages unputdownable. One way to do that, and this is a trick, it's a trick, but it works, is with sentence length. It's with rhythm. It's with rhythm of the chapters. You don't want too much in a chapter. You want just enough, and then you go on. The book that did that, you know, that everybody sort of sneers at is the Da Vinci Code, with those 2.5-page chapters, man. James Patterson also, those 2.5-page chapters. But there's something to it, because just when you go in, just when you get into it, something else is happening. It's with sentence length. The more action in a scene, the shorter the sentences, the shorter the phrases. These are all technical tricks. You know, I don't have like a long list of them, but the point is there are technical tricks, because that's all you have. Like I said at the beginning, all you have are your tricks. All you have is your technique. You know, what you can, if you only have technique, then you're one of those writers that you get reviews, they say, the work is playful, you know. It's a great command of the language, you know. Who needs it, you know? I mean, it's nice to have a great command of the language, but it's got to be in the service of something. There was a book, I don't know, a dozen years ago or so, that was written without the letter E. You remember that? It was actually translated into French without the letter E also. It's a great tour de force. It's like the poodle walking on his hind legs, you know, it's great stuff. But it's an exercise. It's not a novel. A novel is a story. You want to tell a story. It's a great exercise, and I think I'll use it when I teach to write, you know, a one-page thing or something without the letter E, because it forces you to look like Betterly's do at all your other words to see if you can find one that works. But it's not an emphasis for a novel. It's a trick that carried the book away with it. All of your tricks, all of your techniques are in the service of what you're doing, just as when you're an athlete. All of your training is in the service of winning the race, playing the game, whatever it is. None of it is any good. You know, you watch football, ever watch football players train? They do really funny things. They hop in and out of tires and all kinds of stuff. All of that is useful only if it helps them win the football game. It's not, hopping in and out of tires has no value in and of itself. It's the same with us. All your tricks, all your techniques are only valuable if they help you tell your story. That's why you need them, and you do need them, but don't get carried away with them. And that's all right, that's that. The other thing I wanted to say, though, and then we'll get into questions, is I do feel a little guilty these days. Noreen and I were sort of talking about this upstairs. I feel a little guilty these days when I say anything that encourages anybody to write books. Because this is a really, really, really bad time in the publishing industry, and it looks like it's only going to get worse. So on the one hand, it's always been true in the writing game that if there's anything else you enjoy as much, go do that. On the other hand, it's also always been true that we've been telling each other stories. This is another cliche in the writing industry, but we've been telling each other stories since we could paint them on the walls of caves. Ever since we discovered, as a species, that we're different people, you and I, that you won't know what I think unless I tell you. We've been telling each other stories. And whatever happens in the industry and whatever happens in the technology will only change, but not eliminate, how and why we tell stories. So if you want to write, I think it's safe to keep doing it. I think it's going to be tough to make a living, but that's the secondary point. It would be nice, but it's not really the point. The point is to tell each other stories, to make that kind of connection. So I do feel a little guilty, but I'm not going to stop. So that is, that ends the formal part of the evening. And if you want to ask questions, I would love to answer questions.